And this is another episode of 3D Printing News Unpeeled, brought to you by 3dprint.com. And today we learned that BellaSeno has partnered with Evonik to commercialize 3D printed scaffolds for bone regeneration. Now, BellaSeno is one of there's a potentially breakthrough startup in 3D printing that has reabsorbable breast implants. The idea is now for mastectomies and later on for maybe other procedures, you've got a breast implant that is not only customizable, but reabsorbs into the body. So there's no need for long-term silicone implant, or there's no need for other stuff to stay behind in the body. Essentially, the breast implant itself will be consumed by the body, if you will, and then replaced by normal tissue. So that's, of course, potentially a lot safer if it works out, and potentially a very high volume kind of procedure and very, very lucrative one. But the company has more ambitions than just that. And now it's going to develop with Evonik, which is a really large polymer company, also a really large company specifically in powder bed fusion and 3D printing, and long storied history in this space. And they're going to be essentially extending the BellaSeno IP to bone scaffolds, so for bone defects and bone kind of cases. This is kind of also that it's not only like the bone scaffold in itself, in and of itself, it can also help in better tissue grafting, and generally just fewer procedures may be needed, less polymer or metal components staying in the body for a long time. And the teams have been working together since 2019. It's quite the coup for Evonik, who's trying to shop its Resomer portfolio for a while now. And of course, these kinds of partnerships are much more, fundamentally difficult to do, and much more long term than if you were just doing it for another thing. So this is really a long term collaboration. So if this suite of technological solutions makes sense, it will totally make sense for Evonik in a very, very big way. The next news comes to us from Delft University, and that Dutch university has done a research paper looking at the curvature of biomaterials and how the differences in curvature inhibit or stimulate bone cells in making new tissue, and also where they make this new tissue. So the takeaway is that a living cell, as it grows, is responding to the geometry of the environment, which is either like a super new way of looking at things or completely obvious, depending on who you are. So what they've done is they made different curvatures of the mold, and then looked at where on this mold cells tended to grow. Essentially in a saddle shape, as you see on the top left in the picture, that's kind of like one of the preferred places for cells tend to grow. On the hill part of that saddle shape is even more preferred than the valley. But this kind of thing generally is caused by the stress fibers inside the cells themselves. And these stress fibers are optimized to require the least amount of work on the part of the cell, essentially. So the stress fiber is aligned with the bend. And whenever that align is in the stress fiber and the cell and its curvature, what is being built upon is the highest amount of alignment, the more relaxation, the less effort on the part of the cell, the more bone growth the cell has, or the more the cell grows, which of course seems very logical, but I think it's a wonderful way that they look at this, and it could really point to different shapes of tissue regeneration, either in a lab or in a person or in a printer or any kind of other way. The work is by Sebastian Collins and helped by a whole bunch of people, including Amir Zadpour, who you've probably heard of, and Lily Fertilla Aparichai, you've also probably heard of as well. What the team did is they used 2PP, 2-photon polymerization, to make the molds, PDMS molds. And once these were done, cured, and debound, they grew cells on them. So this could have broad repercussions. We don't know exactly how broad or where this will mean, but I think it's an interesting, elegant way of studying this kind of behavior. And it's to me at least, and I'm no means an expert in this area, to me this is a very interesting finding so far. The next news comes to us from the picture went wrong. I don't know what happened. Okay. The next news comes to us from Morrama, And they've created something called the Luma. Now, the Luma is a concept at the moment. So it doesn't exactly exist as a service. But I think the concept in and of itself, explored by these designers, is something that we should look at a little bit deeper, because it's a subscription service for menopause pills. So the idea is via the smartwatch and via an app tracking user behavior and inputs from the user, the smartwatch recommends different levels of nutrients. So black cohosh for hot flashes, lion's mane to reduce brain fog, and ginseng to increase libido, and maybe even THC, should that be legal in wherever the app is being used. The idea of customized nutrition, of course, with Nourished is doing this alongside some really large players. There's some other companies in the space, but I think that this is a beautiful area to play in, because the regulatory burden is well, it's easier to make ketchup in your own house. It'll be more difficult to make ketchup in your own house than a vitamin. Right, the regulatory burden is very, very light, like a little scary light, actually. And the idea, of course, is to say, okay, like we have a medical way of solving things, but what if we have like individualized nutrition that responds with an app? They threw machine learning in there. Why not? The response to your case of your menopause and just manages that menopause in long term, and then you're getting something in between of a medication and a nourish kind of solution, or you're getting a kind of like optimized nutrients type of solution. But this has a gigantic potential. So I think these guys came up with a really timely kind of vision for this app and this idea. It's just a concept at the moment, but one could see how the idea of combining an app, user inputs, and then personalized medicine or personalized nutrition could lead to a lot of. It's a very cheap way of delivering medicine or nourishment to one individual. And it could be a really cost-effective way in the future of managing or help manage diseases. So think of somebody who has something like depression, which is, of course, way more complicated than just food, but food helps, right? Imagine that person then just makes that a little bit better through this kind of app use. That could have huge benefits to that person and society as a whole. Think of other long-term things like cancers and things like that. Think of just like individualizing 3D printed nutrition and medicine, but also using that combination with the app to get the right treatment. I think this is being explored. It should be explored much more, because it could be giant. Sorry about the incorrect picture there. And thank you for listening. This is another episode of 3D Printing News Unpeeled. My name is Joris Peels, and this is brought to you by 3dprint.com. You have a great day.